Hi, I'm Florence. I'm an architect, and I'm here to talk to you today about who architects hire when they want to get it right. My perfect project, what I get to do is to assemble and lead the project team. First, I establish a vision for the project, and then I rely on skilled consultants to carry out that vision using their own expertise. But in home construction, an architect is a lot of times not needed or wanted. And the homeowner may be faced with decisions that they're not comfortable making. Or maybe they have a contractor who says, oh, that's outside of my scope. You need to get somebody else. Or maybe the contractor makes a decision and you wonder, is that really what should be done? And so that's why I'm here to talk to you today, so you can understand who the design professionals are that an architect would gather on their team, what each of their roles are, and how they contribute to a finished product. So we're going to go through this in about the order that we would need to go through it in a project. A surveyor is first. That's a great consultant to have on your team. They're the ones who map out the lay of the land, the property line, where that is. If there are any buildings already on the property, then they can measure and show exactly where those are. They also show the landforms, if there are any hills or dips or fences or anything that's on the property that would impact what we're going to design. The surveyor will can create an accurate drawing representing your property. Next would be a civil engineer. A civil engineer is responsible for the infrastructure and getting that infrastructure to your building. Utilities like electrical and maybe the gas and the sewer, the plumbing lines, all of those. They take care of everything that's 5 feet outside of the building footprint and beyond. And civil engineers also deal with the drainage, and they use that information about the lay of the land to assess if the drainage is appropriate. Drainage on the landscaped area as well as the hard surfaces like a driveway or a walkway. And another person that I like having on my team is a structural engineer. And this person is responsible for all the structural elements within the building. And that would be like beams and columns, foundation, anything that supports the building. And they ensure that all the structural elements comply with the applicable codes, national and local codes and regulations that affect your project. And an engineer, what I would really like to do with an engineer is to get my plan figured out, get the vision, have an idea of what I want to do as far as do I want columns, do I want stud walls, just a basic idea of what I'm thinking for the structural system. Go to my structural engineer and say, okay, this is my plan. This is my vision for this building. I want it to be tall and open and expansive, and this is the structural system I'm thinking of. And then they would talk to me and give me feedback on the economic feasibility, the constructibility, and how the structural elements would impact and impact the vision and the feeling of the building. And if you're doing remodeling, you may just need a little bit of service from a structural engineer, like to have them come and say, oh yes, that wall that you want to take out, it is not structurally significant. You can do anything you want. They write it up and stamp it, and then you can submit it to the city and say we're okay. Or it could be to the other extreme where they need to do a full set of drawings for the structure, and that usually happens with the larger, more complex buildings. But somewhere in between there, when you're doing remodeling, it's good to have a structural engineer check on what you're doing, what you're tearing down, what you're putting in, and make sure that these things are going to hold up under conditions like earthquakes and wind. So another design professional I like to have on my team is an electrical engineer, and they take care of all things electrical, the electrical loads, the circuits, the lighting, where the outlets are located, the electrical appliances that you may have. And to be honest, that's essential in commercial construction, but in residential construction, it's really not very critical unless you have a very large complex building and your local authorities require that. But what I would do instead of an electrical engineer is I would rely on a competent electrical contractor to determine those things. And most electrical contractors can do what they call a design build, where they will determine where things are, where the electrical outlets are, where the lights are, and switches, and what the loads need to be. And you will not need a stamped drawing from an electrical engineer. Again, check with your local authorities and make sure that you do not need stamped electrical drawings. And I don't have anything against electrical engineers. I love having them on my team. But if you don't need that level of design in your home, then I don't recommend that you spend your resources on that. An electrical contractor will be able to do most things that are needed within the home. And mechanical engineers, similar. They are generally not required for home construction. There's nothing wrong with working with them. Mechanical engineers deal with the heating, ventilating, air conditioning systems, the gas, and the plumbing. And they do a great job of planning all that out, and the fixtures and everything, and the sewer lines and getting those out. But in home construction, remodeling and additions, and the more simple projects in home construction, mechanical engineers are not needed. Your mechanical contractor will be able to recommend the services that you need, the appliances that you need, locations, running all the piping and everything. They're a great resource. Another consultant that is that I like to work with is a fire sprinkler designer, and they of course design fire sprinkler systems, and those are only needed for the larger homes, or if your jurisdiction requires a fire sprinkler system. And a lot of times the installer of the system can be the designer also, but if not, you reach out to your local building authority, find out if fire sprinklers are needed in your home. And usually they're only for the larger and more complex ones, or for homes that are in an area that is like wildfire kind of risk there. So talk to them and find if your home does require a fire sprinkler system. Usually the jurisdiction can recommend somebody that you can go to. Another person I love to have on my design team is a landscape architect. Some people consider that to be extra, an unnecessary expense, luxury, so to speak. And I can see that point. I can understand that. At the same time, I really like what landscape architects do, because they know the plants, they know the area, they know the climate, they know, if you tell them, I love to garden, I love to spend time, I love to do this, then they can recommend plantings that will work with that. And if you're like me, where it's like, I don't want to take care of anything, just put it, give me some idea of how it will function and work well. I want a patio here, and I don't want to bother with the plants. and they can recommend low maintenance plants for me and ones that will thrive in my climate. And I just love that small expense. And in fact, my partner and I in our home, we opted, when we did an addition, we opted to get a landscape architect. And even though it was a little bit pushing our budget a little bit, we did that. We got the plans, and what we asked them to do was to plan it in phases for us. And so he's okay. My partner's okay with getting the plants and putting them in and making sure that they're secure and happy where they are. But neither of us were comfortable with choosing the plants and knowing how high they were going to grow or what they were going to do. Anyway, landscape architects, I love them and I highly recommend them. So there we go. My list of essential professionals to assist me as an architect, people that I would want on my design team. I hope this helps you in planning and executing your home construction project. If so, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment or a question about consultants or about anything else construction architect related. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Thanks so much. Happy building.